Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to my Generation Z American democracy discussion. Today, I want to talk about what we're inheriting basically as a generation. Everybody in my generation now, you are now between the ages of 6 and 24, and we're all old. And now people are stepping up in our democracy to now run our government. And I want to talk about that. So people come in, we're about to have a discussion. USOD, understanding the structure of our democracy. America is going through a lot right now. And Joe Biden, recently elected president, has said himself that he would like him to be the transition president, transition from one generation to the next. So let's get into the discussion. Who am I? My name is Gary Murray. I was born and raised in Northeast Washington, D.C., and I'm a '04 baby, Generation Z, 2004. My dream is to one day be a lawyer and one day be a politician of our generation, one day make change and get everything together. My mission in this program is to basically reach out to everybody that's my age that's kind of stumbling on trying to understand what life is. And we have technology that's trying to explain a lot to us and we're not really getting. And I really want to reach out to the youth to explain our citizenship to them. I also want to explain to them how our government works. I also want to explain to them how politicians work. What are their jobs? What do they do? What do we expect from them? I also want to talk about what we've just really been through, what we've witnessed as children and now young adults. What have we seen? What have we learned? How are they handled? The reason why we study history is to understand the reason why we are where we are today. That's the reason why we study history. And I also want to have this discussion because it will also explain the importance of a main problem in today's society, the spread of misinformation. USOD. I actually came up with this acronym myself, understanding the structure of our democracy. If you don't know, now you know. The government is actually broken up into three branches. I've actually asked a few of my friends and I've did a poll on Instagram. How many branches do you believe run the government? And if you don't know, it's three: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. The legislative consists of the Senate and House of Representatives. There's a total of 535 members of Congress. The House of Representatives are selected by population, and there are exactly 100 senators, two for each state. The legislative branch does things such as write laws, help pass laws. They're really the laws behind everything. And then we get to the executive branch. The executive branch is the president, chief and commander. The president has the right to veto laws. He also has the right to sign laws. He also has all the unofficial presidential powers, along with the vice president. The executive branch doesn't only consist of the president and the vice president, which is something that people don't know. The cabinet. The cabinet is also very significant in the executive branch. The cabinet consists of all the government agencies that basically run the government, basically run our daily living. The judicial branch, as I believe most of my friends know, are the non-Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court justices decide what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. And those are the three branches of government. That's how they run our American democracy. Refresher: the Constitution. We, the people. What the Constitution says must happen legally unless amended by the Supreme Court and rewritten by Congress. That's basically the basis of how our government runs. There are 27 amendments in our Constitution to keep our government regarding things such as civil rights, judicial rights, rights of judges and courts, federal involvement, because remember, Americans, we're very strong about less government, federal involvement, states' rights, federal powers, and etc. Positions of powers. Now, I'm going to talk more about the positions of power. Legislative branch. As you see here, these are all the leaders of basically the legislative branch when it comes to what Congress does and how Congress does them. You have things from the president of the Senate, from the Speaker of the House, all the way down to the minority whip of the House. The executive branch, you have the president, the presidential powers, unofficial powers, vice president, and look at all of the cabinet. This is what I was saying. Here's a fun fact. One thing that most people don't know, and it was talked about a lot during the Trump presidency, is something called the 25th Amendment. With this, the cabinet can actually decide, the cabinet along with the vice president, because without the cabinet, the vice president can't do it. The cabinet along with the vice president can make the decision to remove a president from office. That gives the cabinet a lot of power. Judicial branch, you have all the different courts. Most judges they're picked by a president. Supreme Court justices are also picked by presidents. Judicial branch, I've already explained what they do. So let's move on. Logics and ethics. Expectations of people in power. What do we expect from our elected officials? What do we expect from the people that we decide to put in power? What should they stand for? What is their mission and their dream for our society? How should they act? How should they present themselves? What characteristics should this person have? Everybody that we put in power for a reason, mainly because they have promises, or mainly because they feel as though they can make a change, or mainly because they feel as though something is being discriminated and that it must be fixed. With that comes with certain characteristics, leaderships, bravery, honesty, caring about justice, civil rights, watching your words in public. Those are all things that we should expect. If you didn't know, logic and ethics is actually a class. Logical, ethical. You make logical and ethical decisions all of your life. You make decisions based on logics, ethics, and common sense. And we should expect this from everybody, not just certain people or certain citizens, but from everybody that we put in power, that we expect to do something for us, and we expect to lead our country to the right place. As you see, I have some people up here who are leaders of our country, and some of them don't really address themselves perfectly. They don't really show themselves perfectly. And then you have others that want to make change, such as AOC. AOC, she's a freshman, somebody part of our generation, and she's a good leader. She's a good representation of a good leader. I want to move on now. Okay, so in the chat, I actually want to talk to anybody that's out there about what historics we remember. There's a lot of things that we've been through since we were little, since we've been going to school, kindergarten, all the way up to college. Major events, government involved, bill signs, elections, Congress related news, anything. Natural disasters response. We've had a few hurricanes that were pretty vicious. Hurricane Harvey. How did y'all feel about the response to Hurricane Harvey? I'm gonna see if I can see everybody's response in the chat, but I want to make sure that I can see everybody. How did historic events? I have historic events on my next slide, but put some historic events in the chat. Here are some things I remember. The Obama presidency. Now, if you were like me when you were little, when I seen, I believe I seen Obama's second. I seen Obama's second reelection, and it was nice. And it was something because it was something for me mainly because Obama is the first person of color to be elected. And in school, we haven't learned about a lot of Black history for real when we were younger. There hasn't been a president like this before. Also, Obamacare covered 40 million people with insurance. That helped people with pre-existing conditions, such as myself. I have asthma. Bin Laden's death. I wasn't born during 9/11, but we all know what pain that left on the country and how people felt after, how many families were affected up and down the East Coast. Just national tragedy. Edward Snowden. I want to get to Edward Snowden first. Edward Snowden, if nobody's ever heard of what happened back in, I believe, 2013 or 2015, Edward Snowden is somebody who he is a whistleblower who worked for the NSA and released documents to journalists such as The Guardian about how the NSA was watching Americans on a large, widespread scale. This was something huge because, as if you don't know, Edward Snowden is not here in America. He is taking refuge. He's taking refuge in Russia because he can't return back or they will arrest him. And conspiracy theories. There's been a lot going on with conspiracy theories recently. I don't want to get too deep into some of them, but one of them is Q. QAnon has been something that's been a lot over the past few years of since back when Obama was elected, of things of high people in high positions, and it's very bad when misleading information starts to manipulate people and starts to disenfranchise those who give their life to give information to people, proper information to people, facts to people. Trump presidency. Obviously, nobody expected Donald Trump to win in 2016. A few people did, but really everybody thought that Hillary was going to win. Trump presidency is going to be, and it was one of the most historic events, in my opinion, in American history. The creation of quote unquote fake news. Fake news. I don't know about anybody else in our generation, anybody else who've ever heard of the term fake news before 2016 or 2015, actually. Fake news is something that has spreaded very badly within our country. And it's like I said, it's disfranchising numerous amount of people. And that affects people's families. And that's something that's very impactful. The impeachments. There was a lot of that's history. If anybody in Generation Z, if y'all have been keeping up with the impeachments, Donald Trump is the first president to be impeached twice. The first president. That's historic. Rise of hate groups. What happened in 2017, Charlottesville, what's been happening all over 2020 with the police brutality. History. The economic meltdown of COVID. COVID hit America so hard that we are going to have to deal with the repercussions of it. Our generation will have to deal with what is handed to us. And now that we are becoming the ones that have to step up, that have to come up and lead our country, We know now, we see now the things that may affect us in the future that we're going to have to make better decisions on. COVID-19, the pandemic, a lot of people died. More people than who died in World War One and World War II combined. More people than both world wars died in a matter of 1 year because of this pandemic. The economy is back at Great Recession levels. For anybody that doesn't know who the federal chair of the reserve is, that person basically explains how the American economy is doing. Said it's doing bad, poor. We're in a tough situation. Saying things may not even get back together till 2024. And then the Capitol riot. If you have not heard now, pretty sure most Americans have heard that the Capitol was attacked on January 6th. And that was the first attack on the Capitol since 1812, when the British tried to storm the Capitol and burn it down. That's going to be written in. If none of this is written in history books, that's going to be there. That's something that no one in 200 years has done. So that those are some big events that's happened that I remember. Now I believe most of our generation should, look back on as we get older and as we begin to learn about how we want to do things, how we want to be good citizens. Okay. So I also wanted to ask, what is something that most of you have learned from political leaders in American politics over time? What are some themes? I have some themes that I believe up here, things such as unity, keeping us together, not apart, being a good leader, knowing how to lead, especially a group of people that are in distress, a country that is in distress, caring for others, caring about the people around you enough to do something for somebody else, to advocate for somebody else that can't advocate for themselves. That's the best thing our generation does over social media. Advocate for other people, speak out for other people. That's the best part of our generation. Justice, fighting for justice for other people. Best part of our generation. The people before anything. Journalists, they put people before anything, except for maybe a good story. Some journalists standing for what we believe in. Something that I could proudly say about our generation is that we will stand for what we believe in over anything. That we will go out and march in thousands if we have to. That we will post in millions if we have to. That's something that I'm proud of our generation for being. Facts. I've learned that facts define history, and I want to explain why I've learned that. Because in the most recent impeachment, Donald Trump was acquitted by his Republican allies. He was acquitted. And not Senator, House of Representatives from Maryland, Jamie Raskins, he put out all these things, all the impeachment managers. He said the goal wasn't to acquit, because with numbers, it was most likely that wasn't going to be it wasn't he wasn't going to acquit. That he wasn't going to get charged. Excuse me. That they wasn't going to impeach him. So he did that for the record. He did that for his children, his children's children. He put the facts. He put the information out. Even if he didn't get the outcome that he wanted to make sure that history had the facts. Also, honesty. Leaders, even if they do something wrong, step down. Leaders, even if they lie, recognize when they're wrong. And great leaders tend to be honest all the time. tend to not sugarcoat or do anything that is going to jeopardize this country. So now I'm gonna move on. The roles of facts. I talk facts a lot. I talk about facts a lot, mainly because of what we're going through in today's time. Facts only, quote unquote. That's what I call it. Journalism in our democracy. Journalism is at its all time high. I want to say that. You want to know why? Because of our generation. Our generation was handed technology like it was nothing. Technology was not technology. Internet. The internet was created in 96. Look at where we have it now. It's booming. People are reaching millions of people at the tap of a button. And our generation is so creative with how we socialize that now information can reach people at the touch of a button. The citizens and leaders of our country use proven facts to make decisions that impact our government. They don't use false narrative, or they don't use what they think in their mind or what other people tell them. No, they use what they get from their direct department or from their direct agency or from the people, the direct source, the leaders of other nations. The citizens of this country make decisions based off the facts. They vote based off the facts. They tell their leaders what they need based off the facts. They need more food based off the facts, more shelter based off the facts. Vaccines need to come quicker based off the facts. It's just facts. Basics in our democracy. I want to talk a little bit about these journalists, to the four of them. These journalists that you see on my slide are people from the New York Film Academy's top 12 most influential journalists of today. These journalists I all label as watchdog journalists. Watchdog journalists dedicate themselves to inform the public on proven important facts they believe as though the people need to know, as the center protect like the as the center of the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects their right to play the press, to give out information on government scandals, such like just like Edward Snowden did. All these people right here, they've all contributed in some way. Lester Holt on NBC, Frederica Whitefield on CNN, Anderson Cooper on CNN, and Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward, my favorites. Bob Woodward is actually somebody who has stuck the same, even through the progression of internet, social media, technology. He stayed the same. If for people that don't know who Bob Woodward is, Bob Woodward is the journalist that helped Watergate, the journalist that also got hours of recording tape on the former president talking about how serious he knew the coronavirus was at the beginning of the pandemic. Both major news stories. Anderson Cooper, everybody else on the screen, they're major important anchors, news anchors. They all have done amazing things, won multiple awards, and have impacted many people. These reporters dedicate their lives to give resourceful and reliable information. They dedicate their time, energy, lives to fact check, to get sources, direct quotes, information. They do that. They've done it for years. Anderson Cooper has been in this since 96. I told you Woodward's been in this since Nixon. These journalists care. Fact check, reliable, verified sources to get information. Some good places to get information are direct sources and agencies. I didn't put many agencies up here, but some agencies that all any government agency, all complete direct verified sources, such as the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, the FDA, the EPA, all direct sources of government. Those have all direct information, all proven information. Websites, ones that end in things such as .gov, .org, .edu. You have to meet specific verifications for you to get these different titles. That's why most of everything ends with .com, including news organizations, including things such as Wikipedia. Ends in .com is not verified. Public statements, what we see officials or leaders say on broadcasts and conferences. Most likely, there are about 2 to 3 public conferences, public statements given every day, not every day, every week, from leaders of our country, from Secretary of State, Director of CIA, Director. They usually, the president, they give press briefings because they give information to the people every day. Public statements are important. Journalists and news broadcasts, just like I said, watchdog journalists, verified, proven stories, news broadcasts and news articles such as Washington Post, New York Times, Los Angeles Times, things such as CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Those things are old. Those things have, look at what I said, history of making impact with such information. They've made impact. They've impacted our government with these informations, things that are brought to Congress, things that are talked about in buildings that we can't see, decisions that they make that are helped because of these journalists. Journalists are that's why we keep them protected. That's why our founding fathers put that in the First Amendment. And then the last thing, you could always get information from are books. Literally, books. Go to your local library around the corner or in school. Hold access to nonfiction, historical newspapers, biographies, autobiographies, any direct information you need, they have it. So if there's something that you don't understand, take my advice. Go to the library. Listen to news broadcasts, read articles, check out them websites. Those are all verified. Also, do your own research. I cannot stress this enough. Do your own research. Do not believe everything you see. Do not believe everything you hear. Always do your own research. Remember that there's a lot of propaganda out here, especially on social media. If you don't know what propaganda is, propaganda is purposeful, misleading misinformation. The information was put out there to provoke, main purpose to provoke, to cause problem. There's many different types of misinformation, many different pages that just post information just to provoke or just to be funny, and some people take it serious. Remember that you can't believe everything you see on social media, generation. Remember, make sure that you can pick out the fact from fake, the online fraud, the true and false, the conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories cause issues. QAnon causes issues. People in other country are naming these things as domestic terrorist threats. They're federal domestic terrorists. They're naming them their governments. Other governments are naming them domestic terrorists. congressmen, domestic terrorists. We have to be careful with these conspiracy theories. They get out of hand. They manipulate tons of people, disenfranchise hundreds of millions of people. Be careful, generation. Also, use your own logics. Use your own ethics. Use your own common sense, generation. There's a lot that there's no even need to believe. A lot that logically doesn't make sense, that ethically doesn't make sense, that there's no need to even try to believe. You just have to keep your guard up from what people are trying to spew at you, because what they're doing it is not for good. They're doing it is for propaganda. And then last, I know I missed the bullet point up here, is the First Amendment. The reason why so many people are able to get manipulated, the reason why I'm stressing all this about fact checking, do your own research, is because of the First Amendment. The First Amendment gives us the right to say whatever we like, not based on accuracy, fact proven, whatever the government has to say. No. No. The First Amendment gives everybody the right to say what you want. Nobody can do anything to you. If they do, it's illegal. For your speech, it's illegal. What's not illegal is not believing that. You don't have to believe everything that you hear. Do your own research, generation. I believe that we can make progress as a generation. Thank you for everyone that's come today. Thank you to DC Library. My Twitter handle is at GJM Murray0. Thank you for listening. Check me out. This is my public service announcement. I really hope that I reached everyone that I wanted to. I really hope that you everyone listening got something from it, and that we can make progress as a generation so that our society in the future will be better. Thank you.